So what do you think about Kolento versus RDU here?
Well, I think we've got some protects and bans in, and Kolento actually protecting his warrior and allowing his priest to therefore bite the dust, whereas RDU doing the more conventional thing, as we're seeing in Week 3, which is protecting his own priest. Kolento is on a control warrior, which does make some sense going into RDU's lineup, because RDU not only has that priest that he's protected, but he also has Zoo alongside that. So I think having that control warrior on deck for Kolento, he feels is very important. I think he's probably quite justified in doing so. Yeah,
I do want to talk about this a little bit, as we can see Kolento's lineup here. Preview of some things to come. Kind of looking at RDU's side of it with Zoo Warlock. Zoo Warlock is specifically pretty darn good versus Combo Priest. Why did he ban Priest away?
Because it's Priest?
Why did you bring the Zoo then? Oh, because you expect the Priest to be protected.
Yes. You do. There's a flexibility in this format that you're not really used to breaking through. Where you're like, oh, my opponent's going to protect their priest a lot of the time. There's a question you can ask about RDU's lineup on an even third level than what you're asking. Was he's designed a lineup which makes his opponent want to protect their warrior, so therefore they don't protect their priest. So then you can ask that kind of question if you want to go real level 3 about it. But I think generally you are going into this tournament expecting priest to get protected a lot of the time.
Okay, I could kind of buy it.
It's curious though. I think it's a really good talking point.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like one of the things that has perplexed me the most is that particular phase, the protect, ban, and then what do you have left side of it. I've heard so many different opinions, and a lot of it boils down to how players are thinking about the ban phase. And if you think that they're going to ban something, that greatly influences the way that you will ban a deck. And so it turns into a leveling war. And when you're in situations like that, that's where you start to find things where, like, equilibrium style plays prevent you from getting absolutely shredded apart by, finding your two closest options and then randomizing it according to, what percentages it leaves you at.
Right.
That's a very difficult thing to do, and it's a, fairly difficult thing to calculate on the fly. And of almost every player I've talked to who I would say plays at around a top 50 player in their region level, none of them pick at random except Chalky. Everybody else has always told me about how much they get their opponent on the thinking game.
Sorry, was that in reference to this format or old-fashioned?
Conquest in general.
My experience is different, but we will leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names because I know they don't want me to call them
right,
out.
Yeah,
you all know who you are.
Same, also.
Every single one of you.
Fight me. All right, Priest versus Warrior, you do see the two protected decks going headlong into each other here, which is where Kolento has found himself a little bit of an edge potentially over the best of 3, because this is one of the few matchups that we do really like to see if you are on the anti-Priest brigade, which many, many people are.
See that RDU has decided to swap his Hollywood lens today.
He's just changed filter. Curious.
It's a different time of day yesterday.
The end is near.
It's true.
Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe there's like light coming through his curtains or something. Like, I don't know. Seems unlikely.
He's just got such a high quality camera. Like,
it does look fantastic.
I'm partially jealous.
It's got that little film grain on it.
Yeah, tough matchup for RDU here. This is one of those matchups where I have felt. I played a little bit of Priest last night because I was like, I just need to know this. Like, it's getting protected so much, I need to figure out some of the matchups a little better. Against Warrior, I just feel like you could justify almost any line of play because they all have so many consequences and benefits to them that it's like any way you slice it, there are major punishes to like everything you do.
Well, there's no surprise that this is now what people will consider like the bad matchup, because this is the one matchup that really, really, really got impacted, which, by the way, this is the one way that Kolento could kill a cleric this turn, so he's doing it. It's the one matchup that really got impacted by the extra arms nerf. Because what you used to do against Warrior a lot of the time is you would play a 1-drop on 1, it doesn't die because they can't kill your 1-drop on 1, there's nothing in their deck that does so, and then you play extra arms on 2. and then there's nothing in their deck that interacts with that 5 health pool or whatever you have. And then you extra arms again, and you have 7 health, and it doesn't even get interacted with by Restless Mummy. So when you talk about leveling war earlier, you're playing a leveling war against the Warrior's removal, and you're winning because you're getting above what they can do every turn. Since you can't play extra arms on turn 2 anymore, that entire leveling war has flipped around in the other direction, and Warrior's removal stays 1 step ahead of what you can do with your health buffs.
Yeah. Now that being said, I still think Warrior was favored previously. So you can imagine how much more favored it is when they just can't blow you out of the water with a 1-2 punch. And which I guess with the more arms would be a 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th punch, I guess. But I digress.
You can't say that and expect me not to think of Mortal Kombat. Just holding you with 2 arms and pummeling you with the other 4.
Whoa! Second Northshire Cleric!
There's that register again.
That's huge! Yes! Lots of things are injured!
Is someone injured?
Ah, the old 0 mana draw 3. Classic.
Whew.
That's major.
There's some pickups as well.
Artie's got a long way to go, though. But he's got the health on board to start making it happen. For pretty much the rest of the game, Kolento's going to try to find the optimal ways to brawl, to play Garath, whatever it is.
Yeah, just keep things off board for as long as you can. Eventually, your deck scales to the level where you can just drop Tomb Wardens and things into your opponent's threats and still survive the vast majority of the time, and you just take over the game that way. But early game for Warrior is just don't get scammed. Just if there's something with any amount of health on board, just kill that thing.
I just love how many cards you've described as scams over the years.
The thing is that that's usually a term of endearment because like scammy decks are generally the ones I enjoy because I am a massive degenerate.
I just remember Cyclone Mage in Season 1 being referred to as Scam Mage with Stargazer Luna turns.
I love Cyclone Mage.
What do the cards say?
Circle of Healing into Nephroset Ritualist, while Pyromancer is what's injuring the rest of the board.
Oof. If he got Nephroset first and drawn any spell, he draws his deck, right? But just didn't want to take that risk. I guess any spell that costs 1 or less, that is a limiting factor. Fair enough. Yeah, all right, I'm on board.
I am a bit curious about the lack of Light Warden or just not playing the Wild Pyromancer sometimes, I guess.
Sure.
And of course, it stings that I mentioned, the lack of Light Warden here, and the Nephroset Ritualist wins this brawl. But kind of the idea I'm getting at there is that you do need to deliver punches on the other side. You have to hit hard.
So I think it's fine because Radu goes into that turn expecting brawl from his opponent. So he plays the Pyro and the Nephroset to get the last bit of value out of his Cleric that he can before it most likely gets brawled away. And then he holds back minions like this, so the brawl comes down, he refills, he has another huge board after the brawl.
And this is kind of what I'm talking about with the deck, is like you can justify so many different directions because of all the pros and cons that like the idea that you've thought of all the pros and cons, or that you visualized or verbalized them. It's like, it's so tricky.
You have not.
What now?
And now suddenly, having seen a brawl, the next fear for RDU is second brawl and then something Plague Wrath. Outside of that, he's got to be feeling comfortable this game.
Yes.
This is Mummy too.
Can hold me.
Mummy smash the armor.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be super likely to be Bonsomni on RDU side then.
Almost certainly. A little bit of damage sacrificed from Light Wardens is all you're costing yourself. But one of these cards,
I guess
one of these cards is a Nausea Cleric. Like you draw that thing.
It's not.
Does he play both?
He played the one on turn 1, remember?
Oh, yeah, you're
He got cleared
right.
by the Warpath Shield Slam.
You're absolutely right.
That's why I freaked out about that second Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
It's just a 7/7 though.
Yep.
If it wasn't for that second Northshire Cleric, I mean, RDU, I think, would have been in trouble this game.
Yeah, he'd have just no cards in hand.
Yeah.
Like that Bomb Sandy wouldn't have even been drawn because he wouldn't have got that far into his deck, and he'd just have nothing.
He would be drawn next turn.
Who wants to play it on turn 8?
Not me.
Yeah. You played a War Golem on turn 8 before?
I've never played any card that costs anything beyond its mana at maximum point. Now, how to piece it together. I think RDU's getting some of the word.
7, 16, 19 pushable this turn if you wanted to go all in. More than that with the sidekick as well. Not enough to really justify it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think this is a build towards your Light Wardens kind of turn. You want to be able to fight 2 Wardens super easily.
I think with RDU's current hand, he's got to think about ways that he can trade into this Dynamatic and not be upset about it.
What do the cards say?
I think it's just push the Bonsomdi into it. I'm not very upset by that. I got Light Wardens build.
Extremely upset about that.
Okay, well, can I interest you in the 3/9 that we just got?
Yes.
Okay,
there you go. I would much rather trade 4 into the Dynamatic than 7. That makes sense to me.
The end is near.
I just feel like the Light Warden's going to get bigger.
It will. I think 6 remaining on it is plenty, though.
Hey, I got
I'm sure of the merits of pushing that one to 4. That lines up exactly into the Warpath damage that Kolento could do this turn.
Thinking about Mummy or Ziliax.
I don't think you're scared of Ziliax taking that Light Warden in particular, because then you still have the other Light Warden getting buffed by the Ziliax.
Might just not matter.
Right.
Could be future implication of the draws. You know, like if you draw extra arms out, then it goes to 6. You know,
Well,
like.
Well, I'm wondering specifically whether that second Psychic was supposed to protect the big Light Warden further.
Thinking about future 2 Warden trades.
Well, I'm thinking about that Restless Mummy that's been drawn specifically, which is very, very easy with Caster Vision, but it's a huge point of removal remaining in Kolento's deck that is relevant for RDU.
What RDU's thinking right now is, no Brawl, no Plague, no Brawl, no Plague, no Brawl, no Plague.
But that's not all that you have to play around, right? There is more things that you have to worry about than that. Especially, like, okay, if you have a hand that's Divine Spirit, in a fire, then yes, just having your board cleared is the only thing you have to play around. If you stick a minion, you're going to win. When you don't have that stuff, you're playing Zoo. Like, you have to protect every minion and keep pushing with it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like the Mummy there, you're like pretty ecstatic to see just a Mummy. I'm not certain about that, but you know, you could be right, but I'm pretty certain.
And there might be a reason to put 4 health on the other Light Warden that I'm just not thinking of.
It's Tomb Warden, right?
He wants to use that one to trade into a Tomb Warden.
You gotta use both your Light Wardens to do that.
Yeah.
So they smash, both of them live.
Yeah.
Is an afterthought.
Is it push time yet?
Without Brawler Plague. Honestly, even the Plague doesn't even work here.
Yeah, I like it this turn. I like it this turn for sure.
Just 7 them.
Yeah.
Ow. Ow. Not a Brawl.
Because now he's in a board state where Warpath isn't relevant. He still pushes lethal through that Warpath, clearing out the board, so he doesn't need to preserve the minions in play. I definitely think the timing from RDU, he had the opportunity to do that on the last 2 turns, I believe, and I was sort of vaguely talking about it, counting damage. I think he's found the right turn to execute it, personally.
That Northshire.
This place is scary.
Accurate.
Zoinks.
I choose death.
Nothing. Not a big enough defense coming out from the Frightened Flunky, and we mentioned how this was a huge match for RDU. Not my words, his words. He was tweeting last night saying that he felt like, you know, like self-doubt was creeping in. Like he had this little bit of anxiety that he was feeling when he was playing because the stakes this season are so huge with relegation on the line. And I think it goes a long way to show you that RDU, who is one of the most secure people in Hearthstone right now because of the size of the stream that he has just supporting his competitive career as well, he still values playing at the top level of competition so highly that he was tweeting about how anxious he was feeling and how he's perhaps failing to stay on top of the nerves, where I believe are the words he was using. And he even said, like, it makes me wonder whether I belong in Grandmasters. RDU, you absolutely belong in Grandmasters. If you want a descriptive term of, like, a Grandmaster of Hearthstone, someone who has been winning tournaments since there were tournaments to win right up until this point, is the very poster child for the kind of person that should be in an event like this.
Yeah, and it's not just him that's expressed the idea of nerves. You know, Orange talked at length about it. I spoke to a number of players in private who I'm not going to name, but they talked about how they were having trouble keeping their composure because there's so much at stake this season. Raze on Twitter had talked about like his shortcomings in the match that he had where he's like, I don't know what's going on with me in this season. Like, I'm just... like, people are making errors because there is so much at stake, and this has been something that I think is quite rare in Hearthstone. There's been a lot of dollars in matches before, not a lot of future that's in some of these matches before.
There's never been, yikes, I might not get to do this next year. And, like, that's squeaky bum time in the words of Sir Alex Ferguson.
Indeed it is. We got to have a quick break. When we come back, we're getting to game number 2 of Kolento taking on RDU in this one. RDU off to a quick lead in an unfavorable matchup, so let's see if he can close it.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldoom.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The Scales of Justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley! We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonally timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there.
A
fish.
No! It's the Scales of Justice!
Oh. Ah, who wants to use it first? Oh, I do! Me! On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do is hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
Меня зовут Владислав, мой никнейм Silvername, и моя страница на Твиче Silvername. Как придумал имя, бронза — это слишком мало, потому что бронза, как я говорил, 3-4 место — это самое обидное место. Золото слишком пафосно, а серебро — это золотая середина. Быть грандмастером для меня, наверное, показывать хорошую игру, или учить людей, что я делал до этого, записывать какие-то гайды обучающие, только делать в еще большем количестве. Самое главное — ответственность. Точно ответственность. Хобби, я бы не назвал его хобби, но до того, как я начал стримить и профессионально играть, я профессионально занимался музыкой на протяжении 5 лет. Ездил на всякие там конкурсы, выступал. Потом из-за, можно сказать, травмы спины закончил делать это. Сейчас, можно сказать, иногда поигрываю для души чисто, чтобы расслабиться. Ну, наверное, самое, чего не хотелось бы, это, скорее всего, вылететь из этой лиги, потому что это самое обидное будет. Для того, чтобы это случилось, это должно крайне не повезти. И кому-то 16 игроков явно не повезет. И не хотелось бы оказаться на их месте.
Second day of Grandmasters this week for Europe. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora. I'm joined by Simon Sato Welch, and right now we are amidst Kolento taking on RDU. RDU off to a 1-0 lead in this one, and Sato, we talked about how important this match was for RDU, and I think I'm already seeing some pretty stark differences just in game one of his play, where it's a very distinct game plan. He has an idea of where he wants to go, and then the timing of everything lining up perfectly for him to deliver lethal blow.
Yep, I think it was a very well-executed game plan from a top-down sense. Have some question marks over just specifically like that one play about where the health was being allocated, about what was important that turn. I think you bring up a good justification with Tomb Warden. But apart from that, like if the worst you can do is nitpick one little play about where you put a health buff, I think he's executed his game plan pretty damn well. But now we have a matchup which I don't think we've seen, at least in Europe yet, in Season 2 Grandmasters, which is Zoo versus Control Warrior. Classically believed to be a good matchup for Control Warrior, but I think you were involved in this conversation, right? Who was it that had the hot takes on Twitter for you? That Zoo was favored in this matchup?
So
Monsanto? Is that who said it?
Yeah, it was Monsanto. And I actually think that he's right in hindsight, and more specifically with RDU's list.
Okay.
A couple things that I'm looking at is that, Spirit Bomb has become a very popular card in this style of deck, and, you play like a Zooicide style game plan where you just deal yourself heaps of damage and then try to kill your opponent first. There's a couple things that are really big kickers into that, and one of them is the inclusion of either a Sea Giant or a Dark Pharaoh Takan to bolster your minions. I think that's a very important measure. RDU's gone with a single copy of Sea Giant this one. Number two is on Coin, this deck I think is much scarier for Warrior, where Coin Neferset Thrasher is like about the worst thing you can see.
Now that's great, and I'm going to let you finish, but Eternium Rover is the greatest one-drop of all time. Of all time!
It's very good. There's no question about that. RDU's hand's not super spectacular here either. I would say this is the one liability the deck has, is that its one-drops are just not getting the job done.
Like this, obviously, I presented it in a facetious way, but that generally is my argument. Like, how can you be favored against Control Warrior when they have better one-drops than you do? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Well, it's your mid-game plan, right? Like, Zoo's mid-game plan used to be throw things on the board, hope that they live, hope that I can just draw Doom Guards and charge you out of the game. Like, that's not in anymore. Now the mid-game is wait for the right moment, Diseased Vulture, make a bunch of 3-drops go ahead, you clear a board, I do it again.
Sure.
Like, that's kind of your idea of a mid-game plan. And so, for Kolento here, he doesn't have to worry about that this turn, so he's not going to. And then it's the following turn he's got to worry about. Viper was one of the players who brought Dark Pharaoh Takan.
Yep.
And I have been a fan of that card since day one, and I love it. It's just, that's like the kind of thing that I want to do is play that card.
It was really good for us in testing, right? Like when we were running matchups with you were playing Viper's Zoo deck, like it was a problem for me every time he came down.
And that's kind of what I'm looking at here. If this was a Dark Pharaoh Takan, like, results-oriented aside,
yeah,
it would be massive. But that's kind of the idea, right? Like, Sea Giant's meant to swing an aggressive matchup. Dark Pharaoh Takan's meant to give you resilience in the face of opposition. And so, if you look at RDU's lineup overhead, he's got, like, Abusive Sergeants in his deck. You look at his Shaman deck, it has Plague of Murlocs in there. Like, Priest has clearly been a focus for RDU. In this week. And so that to me tells me that you would rather have a Sea Giant in here because your goal is specifically to fight against Priest.
Right. Which he banned.
That's now you understand why I thought it was super weird.
No, I understood to begin with. That's why I kind of had to add that caveat.
Why do you call? Why do you call?
I guess his thought is, I mean, his thought has to just be it's going to get protected. So
Yeah.
I'll bring stuff to protect against it. And then he's like, oh, we didn't protect it? Okay, ban it.
Super Collider positioning always going to be relevant here. The way he has done it, Kolento only has one option, which is to send a 1-3 and a 2-2. Any other configuration, Kolento can choose which of those two outcomes he would like to go for.
Yeah. And again, like the fact that RDU hasn't applied a ton of pressure early on, that's really not what he's looking for. It's a pinpointed pressure where it overwhelms Kolento's ability to sweep out boards. Like, you force them to have AoEs with just a couple of cards at times, and then you try to capitalize on that afterwards. The idea is to exhaust the removal from Kolento.
I must choose.
Just another Thrasher this turn? No, he's going to go Juggler.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going Thrasher.
Okay.
These stones.
This kind of might be my my old school Zoo sensibilities, but I really do like life tapping against Warrior just to make sure that your resources stay as high as possible.
It's just 4-5 is so good in the matchup.
Yeah, well, you still play a 4-5 with the life tap, you just don't play a Knife Juggler.
But I want the Juggler.
Well, fine.
The Juggler protects my evil genius.
Sure, that's true.
Yeah, any way you slice this, there's going to be a health board on left for RDU outside of the range of Dynamatic.
Yes. Or looking at it the other way around, any way you slice it, if you Dynamatic, there's always going to be an awkward Super Collider board left at the end. Most likely outcome is, what, a 4-4-ish Nephicet and the Voidwalker still alive, which don't play nice with each other if you want to smack them with the Super Collider.
Interesting. So Kolento's just saying, I need to get to a Dynamatic turn. That means the gates are open for RDU. If he draws Vulture here.
Grim Rally's pretty dang solid as well.
Ooh, RDU sits up.
I think it might be go time. Ooh, this turn the life tap comes out.
You can still kind of go here. I mean,
Yeah, it's slightly less going than it would have been otherwise.
yikes, those are bad.
That is a really awkward Soul Infusion. Three mana, draw 2 Flame Imps.
No.
No, not interested.
I tried that. Didn't work.
You did. You did genuinely try that against me.
Yeah, it didn't work.
You had Vulture in your hand as well, right? So you're just trying to draw the damage source.
That's a perfect Dynamatic turn.
It is.
I think that 5-3 should be in the middle. That doesn't matter, does it? 1-2. Nope, doesn't matter. Nothing here changes Dynamatic outcomes.
Well, there's one thing that can change Dynamatic outcomes, and that was having more minions in play, right?
It was also having the crystallizers both, but, you know, considerations for Vulture here, and I think that one's going to spell game 3. I mean, that is just so much pressure that gets applied in such a short period of time.
I feel like I do get the hold of just saying, like, oh, okay, I haven't seen Brawls yet. I don't want to, like, super commit into the board here. But I think he just played too weak into other things, like, you know, Restless Mummies, Dynamatic, all those things. And that's the balancing act against Warrior, and that's, for me, why the matchup is hard, because they can come at you on both fronts. They can deal with, like, a couple of chunky minions, or they can deal with a big wide board. I think, personally, I would have liked to have seen a bigger commitment to the board on the previous turn from RDU.
Yeah. You know, I was talking about this... was I talking with you about it yesterday, too, where it was like Super Collider just changed the dynamic so much in this matchup?
I don't think so, no.
Because I remember before I was always like, Super Collider is just so bad against Zoo. And like the deck has just changed so much. You know, we say Zoo, it's just, that means aggressive Warlock.
Yeah.
The current iterations of it with like Diseased Vulture, Nephroset Thrasher, like Super Collider just has such a bigger hit in the matchup than it used to. And your 1-drops, you know, they don't quite get as scary super quickly. You know, something else that is not an already used deck list is Direwolf Alpha. So, you know, the 1-drops can't become super big early threats. You know, just think about how much the Super Collider changed the scope of this game.
RDU just going to make himself the biggest of Sea Giants and hope that some magic happens, but it's not going to come to fruition. 10-12.
You know, I normally hate brawling my own board, but I mean, look at it. You just do whatever you want, just like eeny, meeny, miny, moe a card right here, and they're all pretty decent. You like land on Elysiana, you're like, dang it! That's a 7/7.
Yeah, even with the Ziliax, it costs you your whole board just to deal with the Sea Giant if you don't use the Brawl.
You just wait it out, right?
Second Grim Rally becomes very scary in that position.
You got a Dr. Boom Mad Genius. You go to 30, your mechs get rush. If they Grim Rally, you have a Brawl.
Sure. You do take a lot.
6?
This place is
What?
scary.
You take like 6.
If Grim Rally's drawn?
There's two Mordens in play.
Yes.
That's 12. 12 is a lot.
I like this play. No, the Sea Giant absolutely hits you in the face if you don't make this play and Grim Rally is
You're
drawn.
all boo-hoo.
You can't just put you... You're like shouting me down as if I say something dumb.
Hey, it's just
But
nothing
it actually
matters.
was right.
Wait. Where? He does have Direwolf Alpha. I'm dumb. I missed it.
Yeah, dummy.
Look, at least I didn't say that Grim Rally was scary when you have that
It
position.
was.
No, nothing was scary.
If you didn't play the Ziliax, then Grim Rally was at least some kind of win condition. Because not only do you trade through all the stuff, you also trade off all the little minions. So you saying, well, he has a brawl, but there's a giant Sea Giant that's just hit him in the face, and all of his little minions have gone away. So the brawl is then less effective. The brawl gives you an outcome where the Sea Giant can just win.
I'm not seeing it. He's just not going to win that game. Like
I agree.
I want to lament him getting destroyed by the Dinomatic more than I want to talk about a Sea Giant was all. But in that game, it's like it gives you a demonstration of like the power that Warrior has versus minion-based decks that need to connect. It's like Dinomatic's the scariest thing in the game.
Yeah.
And they have ways to punish you for playing around Dinomatic. And the Dinomatic punishes you for playing around those cards.
Yes,
like
I agree.
it is like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Right.
You have to have the right outcomes happen if you're going to win that matchup.
The one thing I will say is if they brawl, you can recover. Because they brawl, you leave a minion. He had a Super Collider, sure, he might be able to like smack down a last 1/1 or whatever, but then you get to refill with initiative. If they Dinomatic, that's much harder for you to recover because they pulled ahead. So personally, I would rather play around Dinomatic than I would Brawl, which I think is a decision RDU had to make on that turn where he chose to go life tap and medium development instead of just full development into the Grim Rally. So maybe that's a point we can go back and look at, but it's in the past now, and we have a Game 3 coming up that's going to decide the series.
Yeah, I think he's just going to get got in that one. Either way you slice it. Sea Giant versus Dark Pharaoh Takan. Just makes it easy for the Warrior.
Before King
So there being a bunch of 4/4s, you got 188. Shaman Mirror Match. Oh boy.
RDU does not appear to be happy with his mulligan. We haven't seen it yet. Meanwhile, Kolento on the other side has the goods.
There's just something I love about questing Explorer.
Well, at least you've given her the courtesy of getting her name right now. Full keep. I agree. mutate extremely powerful in these kind of early board-based battles, which the mirror is one of.
Are you a coin sludge slurper in the mirror, gamer?
Coin sludge slurper on the mirror. That's quest coin sludge? No.
Just so many times this evil totem has destroyed me when I haven't done anything about it.
I have done the opposite and coined the evil totem, though.
Yeah, coin evil totem I think is quite common.
Yeah.
What to do?
And that's really the decision point Kolento's at right now, right? It's coin evil totem, or it's quest coin sludge slurper, or it's quest into questing explorer. The questing explorer can come down, you know, almost whenever.
I think, so personally, having the questing explorer in hand is what relegates quest coin sludge slurper to the worst play, because worst case scenario, even if you did play quest on 1, they play evil totem on 2, you play questing explorer on 2, they've got 1 lackey out of their guy, like, you know, who cares, right? Like, they're not going to be able to deal with your 2-3 most of the time, so it goes to trade through. I do like coining evil totem in the matchup just because it gets you so much value, and if you're going to rip the kobold lackey off it so you can deal with the counterpunch of just match you on the other side from RDU, that is a very, very big deal.
Yeah, I do agree with Kolento's coin evil totem. It gives you the highest chance to shut off evil totem plays from RDU. And for that same reason...
Coin questing explorer technically gives you the best.
Well, no, that does not. That loses you the game. And for RDU, I'm so happy to see this questing explorer because you are going to probably get 1 lackey from your totem at this point.
Yeah.
If that's going to be the case, you need to fight this on a different angle. It means fight for board now, get this evil totem off board, don't let it snowball any further. Look for weaponized wasp down the road to be the way that you get back into this game. Because Bog Slosher and a questing explorer, that's a serious turn. And when you're looking at turn 4 with an evil totem and that 4/5 questing explorer, that's a world of difference.
Agreed.
So much of this feels to me like a battle for tempo without overcommitting due to the prospect of, you know, the counterplay that's available.
Yep.
And then secondarily, finding your burn plan that makes sense. Turning the corner into burn is very difficult to do. But once you find that turn, things get out of hand.
Yeah, the problem with the burn plan in the matchup is that you're playing a mirror. They kind of mirror your options. So if you go deal 6, heal 6, they just do it right back to you, and it's kind of a stalemate in that position.
You have to identify the point of that, and that is largely about attempting to exhaust resources, developing hand reads, and so on and so forth. I think RDU's thinking about not killing this totem. That sly smile on his face. He's going with his own totem.
Job done.
So he wants to fight super hard for tempo with the Wasp next turn. I find that quite interesting.
Don't you expect your opponent to have a lackey turn this turn, in which case your Wasp doesn't have good targets anyway?
That's yes and no, right? So if your opponent has like Faceless Lackey and they just get too much stuff going, like it's pretty easy for you to get snowballed on, I think.
Okay. That looked like a Bog Slosher turn to me.
Well, that's the thing, though, is if you make the Lackey now, what that means is you get a Lackey Bog Slosher turn, perhaps into a 3/3 Lackey with the Wasp afterwards. Like, all of these nods to me say that RDU wants to fight super hard for tempo and start completing quests as quickly as possible.
Well, hold up. I mean, fighting super hard for tempo would involve having a 3/3 and not a 0/2 on the board, in my mind. Because you're not getting wasped, you're not giving up any tempo.
Well, if you play the Bog Slosher, you put the 2/3 back in your hand.
Good.
So you upgrade your 2/3 to a 3/3. I think you add more stats over 3 turns by this way. And that's the thing, it's like a hard visualization, right?
Sure.
Double time and double pay.
Already winces at that one. I think rightfully so. That takes away that Rush Totem. Or the Rush Lackey, rather.
Deloa, speak to me.
You're afraid of everything on RDU's side.
Yeah, Yeah.
Deloa.
Sandstorm Elemental would, of course, just solve this turn for RDU. There it is.
The old caster trick. Say a card, and there it is.
Never fails.
Except for Pavel game 1 or game 3 versus Bunny Hopper,
Well,
where we said
Northshire
Northshire
Cleric like 52 times.
Just need a giant priest symbol to appear in the sky.
Of course it's the right way.
This turn now slightly awkward for Kolento as well. Novice Engineer is actually a pretty huge card in the matchup. If you can use it post-quest, it really does help you win that value battle later on. He could just Kobold Lackey off curve here because he has the guaranteed generation of another Lackey from the Evil Totem, but it's just so weird and ugly and off curve that I think you do just end up dropping the Novice Engineer. Ah, finds the second one. All right. Tempo Mutate? Question mark?
I'm looking at the mutate, and I'm pretty happy with it right now. I do not want to just get everything I have on board just poked down for free.
It's such a huge asset with the Mogu Flesh Shaper in the matchup.
Yep. So RDU now, it's got to be visualizing some tricks. This is a bog slosher turn if I've ever seen one.
Deloa.
A lot of interest in both the Sandstorm and in the Novice, I think.
Yeah, which one even would you bounce if you were going to?
I've tended to bounce Novices. Like, card draw is just so important. Like, you have to find the tools, right? Like, you're going to make use of stuff. Like, there's so many ways to fight for board that I feel like because you don't need specific tools to fight for board sometimes, that I tend to want to find my Shutterwalk and I want to find my Life Drinkers and be on footing to just keep going aggressive. So for RDU here, he says, you know what? This was a turn of weakness from Kolento. I could just trade this stuff off and snag my Evil Totem turn as well. And I think that's really smart.
I'm pretty happy with this, yeah.
I think RDU's kind of putting together some pieces here and saying, I think I would have seen a Kobold Lackey. I think Weaponized Wasp had opportunity. And so Kolento just, you know, playing it slow and realizing there's not much punish because he's got Kobold Lackey and Wasp. He gets a big payoff here.
We're not seeing a Sludge Slurp at this time? Oh, we're not seeing a Weaponized Wasp this turn. Okay, fair enough.
Kolento's playing this matchup really interestingly, and this is like just very Kolento 101, which is like, well, what's it going to do with these little things? Is it going to value trade me? The whole deck's meant to fight against that. Why would I worry about that?
I guess very reasonable. The point I made last turn is that he has all these guaranteed generations in hand for that Weaponized Wasp anyway, so he's not too worried about giving up the Lackey that he has.
Also, the mind control tech, you're pretty reasonably happy giving up 1/1s on value trades.
For my glory.
Trying to get RDU to fall into a trap.
You belong to the bomb now.
Quest complete for both players now. Well, looks like it's time for Kolento to start making some value.
Pretty stark differences in the deck list I want to talk about too. RD is running 2 copies of Former Champ. Kolento has 2 copies of Giggling Inventor. RD is running a copy of Plague of Murlocs. Kolento's running a copy of Ziliax.
I have to say, I believe it was Kolento versus Viper, the matchup that we tested.
Yeah.
And I was very unimpressed with the Ziliax in Kolento's Shaman deck.
It was... I just didn't feel like it was getting the job done to me.
Nope.
I tried it a lot in this deck. You know, I originally just had a Snip, Snap, and a Ziliax in every deck I built at the start of this expansion. And I was like, very quickly, I was like, you know, battle cries are very good in this deck.
Yeah.
Deloa, speak to me.
When is that Mogu coming down? Gotta find the Witchy Lackey, gotta find the Mutate.
Preferably when he finds a way to evolve it, exactly.
And now you see why I wanted that Novice Engineer so badly.
Kolento just has opposite problems. I mean, I will say, like, I personally have found a lot of value out of the Sandstorm Elementals in the mirror, just because you can make a huge mess of opposing board states. Like, if you are willing to be patient and kind of like wait for the Shudderwock exchange to happen, if you have a ton of Sandstorm Elementals built up in your Shudderwock, then you can just wait and swing the game. So it is a very, very effective card in the matchup.
Well, Artie needs to make something happen. 5 on board is, this is 4 pretty weak ones, and then the Mogu.
Yeah.
The 5 is the number that you are kind of dreading being against when you're looking at mind control tech.
Yes. 5 would seem to be the absolute worst number of minions to leave onto a quest-activated Shaman.
And that.
If Kolento gets the Mogu Flesh Shaper here, with that far left card Mutate in hand, this is a ridiculous board swing. RDU does have the mind control to clap right back at it. Because of that, so Kolento's going to go fishing first. I think he is fearful of the mind control tech coming back the other way if he goes for the mind control tech line. He's going to look for some insurance or maybe some alternative plays from this Ethereal Lackey first. Yeah, not even going to play the mind control tech. Honestly, I don't blame him. I don't think I would have considered this at the start of the turn myself. I just would have said, hey, look, 6 minions, mind control tech, let's go.
It's just too weak of an opposing board.
Yeah.
Use the tools you have in play.
Exactly. But yeah, in hindsight, I very much agree with it.
It's the classic Kolento 101. Use the stuff you have in play, play bigger stuff. Keep doing that until your opponent does not play bigger stuff and you do play bigger stuff. End game.
Second Mogu. Still no real way to leverage it. Do you ever look at this hand and think he might have to set up some kind of damage plan and draw his Shudderwock?
For my glory.
Yeah, that's the Novice for you. Like, the card draw is so important to find tools.
Yeah.
It's not so much about running out of value. I think he's got plenty of value still stacked up. It's just you run out of tools.
RDU, in answer to my question, seems to have said a very, very emphatic yes.
And I think in RDU's mind, there's like a partial read here of like, I think that there's a possibility my opponent would have mind control tech. I didn't see it. I don't think it's there.
Yep.
And even if it is, I have my own mind control tech.
Yep.
Go ahead. And Kolento with no lackeys, the Wasps are stranded.
With the Overload last turn, only 1 mind control tech playable.
Yeah.
Could have stolen 3
Wow,
minions this turn with no Overload.
I think RDU may have seized the opportunity here. You know, it was that one key turn. He went, hey, you know what? That didn't fight hard enough, and I have a lot of damage. Go in.
It's not quite over yet. Kolento does still have Hero Power, Mind Control Tech, Earth Shock.
Yeah, there's still plenty of fighting power. It's just, I think, you know, RDU is... He could have easily fought for board there if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Instead, he said, just push all the damage in the world. Why hold anything?
Agreed. Totally agree with the state that his hand was in. Said it right at the start of the turn. It seems like push damage is the plan.
Until dislocating TC-130. Until
He's going to use both his mind control attacks. Steals the same number of minions, gets an extra 3 free in play, but obviously the cost is you don't have a second mind control tech in your hand anymore. And then the Earth Shock is going to follow up. Again, he wanted that Mogu Flesh Shaper with every fiber of his being.
The spell damage reservoir.
Yep.
Oof. There's so many mind control techs.
If Kolento has an MCT live here, he does have Barista in hand to get more of them back, but Kolento's primarily interested in life drinkers now, I imagine. Still 2 of them remaining in the deck. We've seen 1 played from RDU. So his Shadow Walk is not massive burst just yet. Kobold Lackey, of course, will just random target off Shadow Walk.
He just needs the Shadow Walk to generate stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
Like this has become a battle of stuff again with the double mind control tech as the response.
Not be rushed. Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
This is a very tough decision.
Oh, I don't know. The Ziliax! Ziliax Bug Slosher! How does he play this turn? Like, is it just Barista Mind Control? Is it Bog Slosher? Activate Mind Control.
So you can trade over the 1/1, Barista, Mind Control Tech, and you only have 3 damage to kill something. Like, say you steal the Light Well there, then you have to go 3/3 and 3/3. Your opponent has 6 on board, you're dead to Shadow Walk. I don't think you can make that play if there's an opportunity that you die to Shadow Walk the next turn. If there's an outcome where you die, I think with the advantages Kolento has in the long game right now, just in terms of resources, you make the play where you absolutely do not die next turn. Which involves Ziliax. Yep, I agree with this.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Weird tech choice. Weird tech choice coming in very, very clutch in that position. He sloshed the reservoir?
Give me this reservoir back.
Just max stats on board. I love it. Just sloshes the reservoir back to his hand. Okay. That's 6 more damage, and that is the 6th point of damage going into RDU Shadow Walk now. Problem is, the Ziliax is still in play, messing all of that up. It does mean that, what, you take him down to 5, back up to 8. So then a Kobold Lackey going face off your Shadow Walk is still lethal?
I'm uncomfortable. On both sides.
Oh boy.
Another mutate drawn. Doesn't do much. RDU has assumed the please don't do anything massive to destroy me position.
Yep. Please no life drinker. That is step number 1. If Kolento has a life drinker in hand right now, I think RDU knows he is in a overwhelmingly losing position. He just doesn't. And if he can't take this 1 off the board, then the Shadow Walk is just guaranteed lethal.
I mean, there's no way to take the 1 off the board without a mutate outcome.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
RDU has a draw if there is not something spectacular from a mutate right now. Goes for the 6 drops. Oh! Ho, ho. 6 drop taunt is a very high likelihood outcome. So
well, hang on now. Hang on. Kolento's about to be vulnerable to mind control tech.
Oh, he is. No. These both are... Oh, okay, yes he is.
And RDU's eyes light up at the thought. And Bog Slosher's to draw. Mind control tech could end the game. That's 25% to end the game this turn.
Yes, it is. As soon as you said that, I thought, no, he's not. He's going to trade this 3/3. And he just didn't. He just did not.
Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
RDU can still set it up. Send more damage face. Make the Shadow Walk lethal again.
Do you do that, or do you prevent Kolento from developing by sloshing back the mind control tech? I don't know.
I think you deal the damage.
I mean, I want to pull the life drinker back because I want to draw Lackey Generation and just get there. I just don't know which one is a more realistic possibility right now.
Noah, speak.
And either way, you got to trade something off this turn.
Job's done.
Shudderwock now not immediately lethal on the following turn.
Kolento's got 20 damage this turn as well.
Because RDU chose to hero power as opposed to just bounce and replay.
If you replay, I think you have to double trade.
Sure. You get a 1 in 14 of Shudderwock for lethal if they don't have the life drinker.
I mean, let's be real. If he draws the Shudderwock, he's going to win the game, right? You're going to have 3 life drinkers loaded up in it. You're going to have a million lackey generation. You're going to be mind control teching the board. Like, Shudderwock's the card that just, like, it's just too much stuff, right?
I wonder.
You're going to go back to 30, like, every single time from it.
Well, he only has 2 life drinkers in it right now, right?
Yeah, but I'm
Third
thinking
one
about...
is in hand. He draws 1 card and he makes some lackeys.
You belong to the
And he MCTs.
Twice.
Mortals are so squishy.
I don't think that's necessarily immediately game winning.
Fire, burn, and cauldron bubble.
Relevant. RDU needs a big draw.
Okay.
Not
Don't
it.
say it, Admirable.
That's game. The bloodlust that Kolento took so long ago.
Yep.
1 point of damage away. And moves up to a 5-1 match score.
Whereas RDU, on the flip side, is in trouble. RDU now sitting down at 1 and 5. And we said it. He needed a big performance to get himself, you know, potentially just right mentally again after some of the things he was tweeting last night. Just getting his head back in the game in terms of confidence in Grandmasters and playing the best Hearthstone that he can. And he's going to be devastated, I imagine, again after another loss to Kolento.
I mean, it's just it's a tough matchup. It's very volatile. You got to play to your outs in that one. You know, the one question I would have in my mind is the allocation of card draw. I have, in my experience, felt that card draw is so important to be able to have access to in those grindy long game matchups. You know, I look at Novice Engineer. It's very efficient for getting your quest done. I often keep it in my opening hand a lot of times. I've watched players who navigate that deck very well do the exact same thing. It's so many raw decisions that you have in that deck that I think it's a very delicate balancing act.
It's not just the Novice Engineer either. There was the play that I was debating as well where it was Bog Slosher on a Questing Explorer, which would have not only been more stats in play immediately, but also another card draw because he's bouncing a Questing Explorer back to his hand. So I think there's definitely some things to look at in that series, but from Kolento's side, I think it was fairly solid as usual.
As usual, indeed. And so, as usual, we have a winner's interview with Kolento. Kolento, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello again.
Hello again. 5-1 match score now. It's just sometimes you look unstoppable in this one. Talk to me about this match and some of the moments that you found particularly interesting or particularly tough for you in the series.
I mean, Warrior kind of felt straightforward. Shield slamming the Cleric is not an obvious play, obviously, but I'm pretty sure it's the correct one because, like, you have to kill those Clerics. That's how you lose against Priests. Everything else, like, I mean, there are small things like playing the 4 or 5 with 3-2 or turn 8. I don't think that changes much, though. Like, I couldn't win without second brawl there. Too good of a hand RDU had. Then War against Zoo. I mean, just textbook anti-aggro hand I had there. And last game was actually quite interesting. Kind of agree with everything I did, except maybe I should have killed Lucky when he had 3-3-1-1 later in game. Like, I wanted to preserve a minion. I didn't care too much about second MC tech, like, when I left 4 minions up. Yeah, sometimes he steals my 5-12, but, like, if I wait, he can just drop this MCT later, steal 2 minions, have higher odds. But, like, yeah, I should have probably killed Lucky to cut off the out of Barista Lynchen. Since I didn't have to turn lethal, he would be able to like just press Hero Power next turn and kill me with, or just Hero Power Barista, right? And that just kills me with Lucky alone. But I guess like if he had time to Hero Power and Barista, he could kill me even if I leave only one minion, because next turn he goes Hero Power, double Life Drinker. So, I mean, it's not like one-sided. Leaving more minion for him means Mind Control deck is more likely to be useful. He top decks like a former champ, say. He gets former champ, he can actually burst through my taunt. It's a very difficult matchup. Too many things to consider.
Yep, agree with that. Admirable and I spent pretty much the whole time debating various plays as well. But I want to talk about not a play, but a card inclusion in Shaman, because a lot of people disagree on what the 30th card in Quest Shaman is. You've gone for Ziliax, which is, I don't think anyone else has done. Why have you ended up there?
Wasn't it good this game?
It was really sick this game, yeah.
I mean, it's good against Shaman, as you see. Like, if you're playing grinding game, some extra heal is very useful. And Zoo is getting more and more popular. Shaman is a prime pick if you're expecting your opponent to Q Zoo as well, so it's really helpful too.
So sitting at 5-1 now, you have continued to play decks that are slightly different than everyone else's. One of the big things I'm looking at as well was like the Druid with the Chef Nomi and the King Phaeris. I'm looking at, of course, the Ziliax in your Shaman deck. Is this stuff that you're like practicing, or is it more things that you're theory crafting? And how much time do you spend a week doing that sort of thing?
Can we skip this question?
You're free to skip whatever question you'd like. What question do you think would be interesting to you, and how would you answer it?
Well, we have casters for situations like this, right? Like, I'm not the caster, so I don't know. Don't ask me complicated questions.
He makes a good point. Kolento, we're just going to let you go and move on with the show. Congratulations. I'll give you a tip. If you don't want to do these interviews, you have to stop winning, I'm afraid. Like, that's the unfortunate part, but I'm sure we'll see you again next week.
Okay, I'll try next time.
There we go. All right.
Take care.